I can't start this service. I can't start this talk like I always used to because now people take the mick out of me. But welcome, good to see you. If you are new or visiting, my name is Matt. I get the job of being the priest in this beautiful community. And I want to remind you of our vision at Unlimited. Our vision is to be a multi-generational family on a mission to do two things, which is to go all out for our unreached younger generations, to see them loved, cared for, and come alive as they find out who Jesus is. And secondly, to be a miracle machine in the middle of the city where people come in and they experience who Jesus really is. And we are starting a brand new series, everybody. We're into an Easter series. Okay, that was rubbish, but that's okay. And so we're diving in. Next 4 weeks are looking really exciting, actually. Today we're talking about Palm Sunday, and the week after, that's next week, we have got some guest preachers. We've got another New Voices Rising. We've got Lucy and Mia preaching, everybody, next week. And there might be one little surprise guest, but that is TBC. And then the 3 weeks' time, we're going to look at Good Friday. And then the fourth Sunday's time is Easter Sunday. It's come out very quickly. And so, that's our little mini-series that we're going to dive into over the next 4 weeks. And Lucy, would you come read for us? Is that all right? Can we welcome Lucy, everybody? Lucy, can you remind everyone what page we're in? And we are on Mark chapter 11, and we're diving to the end.
Yes, so we're on page 65, chapter 11. As they all approached Jerusalem, they came to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. Jesus sent out 2 of his disciples. He said to them, "Go to the village ahead of you. Just as you enter it, you will find a donkey's colt tied there. No one has ever ridden it. Untie it and bring it here. Someone may ask you, 'Why are you doing this?' If so, say, 'The Lord needs it, but he will send it back here soon.'" So they left. They found a colt out in the street. It was tied at a doorway. They untied it. Some people standing there asked, "What are you doing? Why are you untying that colt?" They answered as Jesus had told them so. So the people let them go. They brought the colt to Jesus. They threw their coats over it. Then he sat on it. Many people spread their coats on the road. Others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those in front and those behind shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest heaven." Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple courtyard. He looked around at everything, but it was already late. So he went out to Bethany with the 12 disciples.
Thank you, Lucy. Can we thank Lucy, everybody? And I want you to take literally less than a minute, maybe 20 seconds, 40 seconds, and ask the person next to you, what's the one thing you notice in the text that you find interesting? What's the one thing? Is that all right? And we'll come back in 20 seconds' time. Let's go. Check. Why are you laughing at me? Okay, 10 seconds. Were you not listening? That's the problem. Okay, come on in. So this is a really significant day in the life of the church, in the life of us as Christians, and for the life of the people who are there in the moment. It's a day that we remember that our feelings are fickle, that we get swept into a crowd, and that we can easily be swayed one way or the other. One moment the crowd, this moment, they're worshipping Jesus. They're declaring Hosanna in the highest. They're shouting praises to Jesus. A week later, a crowd, similar crowd, some people think it's the same crowd, some people think it's a different crowd, are shouting, "Crucify him." This week is just off the scale for Jesus. And therefore, I think it's important for us to be reminded again that in our struggles, in our temptations, in our feelings, in the moments where we want to give up on Jesus, where we want to live a selfish life and act like God doesn't really matter, it is a moment where we have to remember who we are. And that our worship on a Sunday morning, arms lifted high as Mia gets to lead worship with us, we get to have those times where we get to say, I choose to believe in you. I choose to declare your goodness, even when I haven't got time for you, even when I don't want to. We go from a moment of saying, God, I don't have time for this right now. Can this wait till Sunday? God, I don't really want to have that conversation. God, this is a bit awkward. I'm not really into it right now. I don't want to stand out today. To be reminded again who Jesus is. That he is the one who comes to save. That he is the one who will love. He is the one who is here delivering his people from evil into the place of peace. And that our worship to Jesus should be both extravagant, personal, and public. Those three things I think really matter. This whole story starts with a step of obedience. Verses 1-3, Jesus set out with the 12. He said to them, go into the village ahead of you. As you enter it, you'll find a donkey colt tied up there. No one has ever ridden it. Untie it and bring it here. Just pause a second. This is like Jesus saying, go to the high street. There'll be a red Mini. Just get in it and drive away. Just imagine this moment. They're like, hang on a minute. Jesus so you want us to steal a donkey? I always get flabbergasted at this moment. Someone will ask, why are you doing this? Just say, the Lord needs it. Could you imagine? You get in the car, the policeman knocks on the window and you say, the Lord needs the car. Just imagine the moment, the audacity of it. And I think it's really interesting that here the disciples, they're like, well, how are we going to get this donkey? And how is it going to work? And what are we going to say? And when people stop us, what do we do? And he's like, just tell them the Lord needs it. And that seems to fly with the people around. Go fetch the donkey was the first act of obedience. And it was an act of obedience that was deliberate because it allowed their faith to grow as they find each detail of the events exactly as Jesus foretold it. If you compare these events in Mark 11 to the events in Mark 14, I think Lucy's going to pick this up next week about the fact that he sends his disciples out again, this time for the Last Supper. The stories are nearly identical. Go into a village. This is what you're going to find. This is what you should say to people. And they find it as Jesus said it was going to be. It's almost like Jesus is preparing them for the next thing. Today, the important question is, what act of obedience is Jesus preparing you for? What's that one small act, the Spirit prompting, the opportunity to pray for a friend, the miracle in the waiting, the conversation that you are called to have? Because I don't think Jesus reveals his plan in its entirety. I think he drip feeds it. He gives us a moment for today that leads us for faith to tomorrow. He gives us a moment today where we get to see what he is up to, which enables us to step out tomorrow. It's interesting, isn't it? And then there's the donkey. I think it's interesting. The whole point of the donkey is making the point that Jesus has authority on heaven and on earth, and that the real owner of the donkey shouldn't shrink into insignificant or surprise any of us. The real owner of the donkey is the Lord. The Lord. We often say about giving, don't we? We don't give our money. The money that we have in our bank isn't our money. It belongs to the Lord, and therefore we have to ask the question, Lord, whose donkey is this? Except for the fact that this donkey would have been a costly offering for the earthly owners of it. The donkey would be used for their livelihood. The donkey would be used as a mode of transportation. This donkey is like the workhorse of the family. And I think we need to remember again that all that we have belongs to the Lord. And therefore a question that we should be asking today is, Lord, what's in my hand, in my pocket, in the resources that I own that you can use for your glory? Jesus instructs them, go take the donkey. And it appears to overwrite the normal rights of the donkey's owner. In other words, he takes authority. He takes precedence over the earthly ownership of the donkeys. And I think it's really interesting because in this time, there's two people that could do that. There were two people that could rock up to any farm, any person's house, any stable and say, we're taking these donkeys, they are ours. The two people are a royal official or a king. They're the two people, they are the two exceptions to the rule. This act is a subtle sign of Jesus' royal authority, that he can wander up to a street and say, the Lord needs this, we're taking it. It's interesting. Psalm 24 verse 1, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Not just the easy things that we can gain or the things that we're accustomed to giving, but everything is the Lord's and everything in the earth and everything in it. Last year I made the point that the donkey is not used because it is stubborn. It's unfavorable. Maybe not to Jesus, but definitely to its owners. And there's probably some truth in that. In a world where donkeys were held purely for manual labor, this donkey not being ridden tells you that it's either too stubborn, too unkempt, too rough, too itchy, too grumpy to be used. My point last year was, when you feel those kind of ways, know that you are not too far gone to be used by Jesus. Know that you can still be loved. Know that Jesus still has a plan for you. That Jesus is still in the business of caring. That you will never enter a lane of being useless to God, despite what you think about yourselves. This year, I want to slightly look at it from a different perspective. I still stand by that statement, but I want to look at it from a different perspective. A couple of years ago, actually more than a couple of years ago, about 15 years ago, when Laura and I were living in London, and we were at a church in Chelsea called Holy Trinity Brompton. And some of the guys in our Connect group, in our hangout, one of them was one of the King's Cavalries. The guys at Buckingham Palace on the horses with the swords. And sounds like a glamorous job, but is pretty hard work. And he said to us once, we used to do hangout every other week, and in the off weeks we used to do socials. And the social week came back, he's like, oh, it's my turn to organise. I'll take you into the barracks at Hyde Park. And we were like, this is awesome. We got to try on the armour. I don't think we were allowed to do it, but we got to try on the armour, and we got to have the swords, and we were mucking about, and we got told off for sword fighting because they're not really swords. They're actually just decorational pieces, and if you chip them, they all get in trouble. And so we got in a bit of trouble there, and then we put on the armour, and we were taking photos and mucking about. And then he was like, do you want to go see the horses? And I was like, okay. I don't really like horses, but sure thing. And so we got down to the horses, and he pulled a few of them out, and it was like, this one's interesting, this one's interesting. I'm like, they're just horses, dude. And in the end, he got these the big horse, the big Shah horse where they beat the drums on it, the really, really big one. And it just started kicking off. And I was like, I don't like this thing, have it back. And so Nick's there trying to push it back into the stables. And he's like, okay, well, hold this one. And so me and a friend decided it was like this beautiful white horse. We were like, let's get on the horse. So we decided to climb on the horse. Do you remember this, Law? And we got screamed at. And this Sergeant Major came out, screamed at us, and was like, this is the Queen's horse. Only the Queen is allowed to ride this horse. You have to have royal permission to get on it. And we got screamed at for climbing on this horse. I think a better explanation as to why this donkey has not been ridden is because it was part of the royal plan to show who Jesus is. It is royal imagery. In the Mishnah, which is Greek oral traditions eventually written down in the 3rd century, it states that no one is to ride an animal that is destined or has been ridden by a king. Fascinating. No one is to ride an animal that is destined or has been ridden by a king. I think this donkey was saved for Jesus, for this moment to be a moment of symbolizing his eternal royal kingship. Beautiful moment. So I want to break out here. I want to ask 2 questions today. What might Jesus be inviting you to take a small step of obedience in today that will lead you into this week that you don't know the whole plan of yet? And secondly, are there any ways that you see yourself like the donkey that Jesus might want to restore in you? Was that an interesting conversation? Did people find that hard, easy? Not hard. A little hard, yeah, it is. I want to talk about the laying down of the palm branches, because it's kind of random, isn't it? But this act, I just ate one of those things and it's all stuck in my teeth. This act of laying down palm branches was reserved for two people, kings and conquerors. You go back to 2 Kings chapter 9, verse 13. Look at the way Jehu was welcomed back into the city. It's interesting. These kings were meant to enter the city victoriously, triumphantly, and Jesus is defying what is meant to be done here. He's entering not in the conventional way a king or a warlord or a military successor would, or one of those, as I said, those giant white horses. This is how a king is meant to enter the city. This is what it's meant to look like. Great animal, perfect in stature, declaring the brilliance of what the king or the warlord or the conqueror has done. Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus, he enters on a donkey that has been rejected by everybody else. And in a world where you are dominated by your success, given your worth by what you have achieved, I want to remind you that Jesus' greatest moment of recognition happens not with an impressive horse, but a common donkey. And therefore, if you feel insignificant, if you feel like that common donkey, do not ever write yourself off, because we allow our theology to dictate who we are and how we are to advance. Verses 8 to 10. Many people spread their cloaks on the road. Others spread branches they had cut off in the fields. Those in the front and those in the back shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest." Hosanna in the highest. R. Alan Cole says those garments hurled recklessly on the road like a leafy branch, but purely in his honor as a king. The Davidic conqueror should be greeted on his triumph entry as he rides into the capital. This is what should happen. It declares Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna meaning praise you and save us. Praise you and save us. It comes from Psalm 118, where David says, "Lord, save us. Lord, grant us success. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." This psalm is written about God delivering his people from their enemies. And the shouts of the crowd are declaring the mighty power of God, who dwells in the highest place, but is alive and at work with his people on earth. The shout, "Hosanna in the highest," is the sound that resounds through Jerusalem. They would have heard it from the walls. They would be looking out to see what is happening. This declaration is that Jesus will make peace, the ultimate kind of peace, a holy peace in a holy place for all people in all times. And that he will do what no man can do before to bring an eternal peace, not a momentary peace, but an eternal peace for you and I. I want you to take a moment to just think about a really powerful memory. We're taking a moment just to ponder something that has been in the past. Maybe your earliest memory, maybe a strong memory from your childhood. I want you to remember that day. Remember the smells, remember the colours, remember the people in the room, remember the conversations, remember the feelings. This, for the disciples, would have been one of those days. They would have thrown back into remembering the smell of the palms and the sea of green. This would have been a story they would have told for the rest of their days, a moment they'd be telling their kids and grandkids, shouting, "Hosanna in the highest," laying down their cloaks on the road. Kind of random, isn't it? Lay down your cloak on the road. But by doing this, they would have been doing 4 things. 4 identities would be at play here. Firstly, politically. Politically, to lay down your cloak in the road states, it's like a tick in the ballot box. It's a declaration. I will follow this person. In this day, I will follow this man. This man has the vote of confidence for my life. It's a declaration. It's a laying down of their cloaks. It's a political alliance. Secondly, it's religious. By shouting, "Jesus, save us," they're declaring Jesus has the power to save. Jesus has the power to save. He is the promised Messiah. In the Jewish faith, they're still waiting for their Messiah. But this is a religious act. Jesus, come and save us. We need you here and now. Thirdly, it's personal. They're not shouting, "Save them." Save him. He needs to be saved. Look at him. Go save him. They're shouting, save us. Save us. And fourthly, it's dangerous. This is a really dangerous thing to be shouting in the streets of Jerusalem. The Roman context here, borrowed from the Greek mythology and Greek theology, the Romans believed that their emperors and their leaders, although born human, became divine. They believed in demigods. They believed in heroes. Who's the guy in Moana? Maui, yeah. Yeah, they believed like men were born human and they turned into gods. The contender for the title in this specific year in the Roman world, the one man was Caesar. Declaring that Caesar is not Lord is tragic. In the eyes of Rome, it is treason. In the eyes of the Jews, declaring that Jesus is the Messiah, the one who will save, is blasphemy. Blasphemy and treason both carry the same sentence, death. There is one punishment for it is death. And I wonder where today you need to stay to the things that feel like they're going to bring you death. Socially, emotionally, physically. You will not have your way. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is riding in and he conquers you. And there's the entry. There's this moment where he enters. I don't know about you, but when I think of this ride in on this donkey, I think about like a nice little ride. Like maybe like the length of the cathedral green, or maybe like, I don't know, like maybe a short bit of like, the high street, or, like maybe from like, I don't know, like here to Marks and Spencer's perhaps. Like a good ride in, like a celebration, not the case. From Bethany to the old town of Jerusalem is 2 miles. This is not a lap. This is not just a short victory lap. This is a victory march. This is a really significant moment. It's interesting. R. Alan Cole says, although it's not obvious here, as in other Gospels, it seems clear that Jesus wants to show that he is the peaceful King of Zechariah. He is the peaceful King of Zechariah, rather than the triumphant Davidic conqueror who would have rode in with sword in hand. What they were expecting was another David to ride in to battle, to slay the new Goliath, Rome. And what they got was Jesus gently riding in on a donkey. This triumphant ride into Jerusalem meant solidifying Jesus as the expected king on David's throne in the unexpected way. Establishing his earthly kingdom and bring about immediate salvation for his people. And therefore, John Marcus says that the Davidic Messiah was expected to purge him of all ungodliness, and therefore inaugurate God's dominion on earth. This is who Jesus is. We have to remember that Jesus riding up to the most holy city in the world, at the most holy time, at the most holy site, Jesus rides to the temple, the center of the Judaic faith, in a way which is unexpected. I wonder where the most sacred parts of your life are, whether it be something godly or ungodly. The thing that you place your purpose and your drive in, security, success, the financial accomplishments, the being loved and known. Because I think that Jesus wants to ride up to those places today to liberate you as the Messiah for your soul. The ultimate place of freedom. The one who has conquered the world and all evil within it. And so my conclusion is simple. This Palm Sunday, it leaves us with the question. This Palm Sunday story leaves us with the question. When Jesus rides into Jerusalem, he doesn't come as the king that people expect, but he comes as the king that people desperately need. Let us allow Jesus to ride into the most sacred places in our lives. The places that you protect, the places that you pursue, the places that perhaps you haven't necessarily let him in entirely, to liberate you. We often wait for a burning bush moment or a grand vision before we follow God, but Palm Sunday reminds us that the kingdom is built on small acts of obedience, like donkey fetching moments. The disciples didn't realize what was to come, but they trusted in him. And therefore allow your heart to cry, Hosanna in the highest. Praise Jesus with everything I have. Jesus, come and save me and heal me and separate me from the life that draws me out of your presence and into the newness of life that only you can bring. Would you stand? We are going to pray together.